Hi, I'm Michelle Shingler, the editor-in-chief of Foreword Reviews, and you're tuning into Petít Forward, our bite-sized interviews with indie authors. Today, we're talking to Lavie Tidhar, the decorated science fiction and fantasy writer whose latest work, The Escapement, we loved. Our review warns that those who enter The Escapement should strap themselves in for horrors and wonders galore. Filled with contorted fairy tales, myths, and familiar stories, Lavie Tidhar's latest novel is both a fantastical diversion and a moving articulation of deep parental love. Lavie, thank you for taking the time to speak with us.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for liking the book.
It's fantastic. Your work often deals in massive themes like the lasting implications of war, the weight of history, but perhaps none quite as universal as that which moves the escapement, a father's grief at not being able to save their child. Why did you choose the surrealist world of the escapement to treat this despair?
You're asking me hard questions, but um, I think, to be honest, I was just trying to write a simple story for once. I've been writing these very complex books, and I thought, oh, I just want to write a simple story. What could be simpler than a father searching for, a cure for his son's illness across a clown-filled, desolate landscape? Um, so it didn't quite work. It didn't quite work out to be as simple as it was, but I don't know why. I don't know why my brain works the way it does. I wish I could tell you why clowns. I think you even have someone in the book kind of saying why clowns, and I don't think I have an answer for that.
I mean, it's fantastic to read on our end, though. So I like that your brain works that way. My next question was about the clowns because it's a fantastic part of this story, and it's a reversal of everything we think about in culture. I grew up in the age of It, and you have a mention of John Wayne Gacy in there, and that really people think of that when they think of clowns. But in your book, they're misunderstood and they're loathed, and none of it's fair. So your bands of clowns are immediately sympathetic. It was a good rehabilitation. Uh, do you take on old Western landscapes in the book as well? There are ghost towns and train heists and saloon shootouts, and you add aerialists and death machines and fantastical elements that make them even more otherworldly. What was your greatest source of inspiration there in constructing those spaces?
Do you know what? I mean, to be honest, I think the main inspiration, as strange as this may sound, is picture books. And especially classics like Dr. Seuss. Oh, the Places You'll Go, which isn't actually a children's book. I think it's was it his last book, and I think it's amazing. It's that logic, that sort of very twisted logic, that very uh, Alice in Wonderland, the sort of logic of a secondary world. And I just love picture books. I love the art. I love the combination of text and art. And really, I think this was a huge inspiration. I think it's a form of literature that is really undervalued. We don't really tend to treat it as a art, or it's a bit like genre fiction. It gets its own awards. It's because it's for children. It's not as important. But if you read one, they can be so moving. They can be so profound when they're good.
Yeah.
So that was actually a big part of it. And then a lot of it was surrealism, surrealist art. A lot of it was spaghetti westerns. I mean, it's a very odd combination. The thing about the clowns that you mentioned, I did wonder, like, did you ever go to the circus when you were a kid? Like, was that a thing?
No.
No. I mean, I don't know why clowns are quite as, why they're put. I mean, I understand psychologically the idea of the uncanny valley, and like they're almost people, but they're not people, or whatever it is. But yeah, it might be more of an American thing, or it might be more of because maybe Stephen King is to blame for all of it. But certainly one of the things I remember as a kid is the European circuses coming to town, sort of thing, and you'd go and see the circus. And actually, living in England now, there is a lot of that still around. There are a lot of these little traveling circuses, and you still get the clowns and the aerialists and the Medway and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's strange, and the interesting thing with living in London is we do have the official sort of the clown church here,
Yeah.
where the clowns gather once a year, and there's the clown egg register, which someone in the 50s started painting eggshells with clown faces, so a clown will have its unique face. Which I've never actually been. I really want to go and see the clown egg register,
Yeah.
just because it has the greatest name of anything that I've ever heard of in my life. But yeah, it's strange, and I didn't realize when I was writing this book, I clearly didn't realize how much people actually hate clowns. And I had people in publishing when I would say, I'm writing this book, and as soon as I'd mention clowns, they would just look horrified. They're like, we don't want anything to do with these books. It was a very bad idea in hindsight.
That you do a great job of. They are so sympathetic in the book, though. I don't like clowns, and I liked your clowns, so I think it works. The stranger's ultimate goal is to reach the mountains of darkness, where there's said to be a mystical flower that might save his boy. It's a brilliant tie-in to the Epic of Gilgamesh, and one that intimates that the flower itself may be a foil. What do you think would be the best thing for the stranger to carry out of the escapement, both for himself and for his son?
I mean, the ending. I mean, no spoilers.
No, yeah.
um, you know, I don't know. I mean, the flower kind of represents hope, doesn't it? But I think the book is about hope more than about solutions necessarily. So I don't know if the quest really brings anything back or not, as much as we'd like to. So it's interesting. It's a book that is very hopeful, but at the same time can be kind of bleak, I suppose. And I didn't want to give up the hope at the end of it. But I think a lot of what I do is kind of that I have this internal debate in a lot of my books about whether escape through fantasy is a good thing or a possible thing. And I think this book kind of continues with that, So as much as you escape into a world full of clowns, is that really even a good thing to do? Which is weird because I think a part of me really just wants to write, a Western with clowns in it, or to write a detective story with Adolf Hitler in it, which I did. But unless I tie to the real world and to real emotion and real people, it doesn't work for me. It just becomes a meaningless quest. So it has to be about something real.
Yeah. So you've constructed this amazing world, the Escapement. If you could enter it, what would you do? What would be your first order of business? Who would you see? What would you do?
Well, I don't think I'd want to go anywhere near it. It sounds a bit. I mean, it's kind of like, all of those places would have been pretty horrible to actually live in. Although I would probably end up, living in some small town, writing pamphlets. Or maybe going and living with the wild clown tribes and trying to learn their ways. I'm sure there are some places of peace somewhere on the escapement, and you can escape to.
Yeah. We love your books. They always pique our imaginations, and they make us reconsider things that we think we know are true. What are you working on next? What can we look forward to?
Yeah, it's interesting. So in the UK, for the moment, this is only in the UK, but I've actually taken the unusual step of writing what we'd call a literary novel or a mainstream novel. I don't know what you'd call it, but I just thought I wanted to see what would happen if you took away the clowns, or if you took away the aliens and the elves. What would happen? And it turns out, I was a little bit worried about it, but it turns out all you have to do is really take out the aliens and the elves. It's not actually that hard. So it's going to be interesting for me because I've been doing genre for such a long time that I would kind of like to see what it's like on the other side of the mirror, as it were. Although I'm guessing it's not as much fun. And then in the US next year, I've got another short science fiction novel coming out, sort of like in the same vein of Central Station, which came out a while back. So that was a lockdown novel for me. That was kind of the last lockdown. Really couldn't concentrate, and I just had this idea about a robot who buys a flower in a flower market on the Red Sea and goes off into the desert with the flower. And I have no idea why this robot is doing what he's doing. So I wrote another story to find out, and at that point the robot is digging something in the desert, and I was like, I don't know what he's doing. I'm kind of intrigued, and I wrote another one, and I realized I'm writing chapters in a book. and not short stories at all. So I just wanted to go on and find out what was happening with this robot. It was a lot of fun to do. I really love doing these pure science fiction stories every now and then, where I get to play with all these cool toys, a century of toys, and he's got a lot of robots.
That's great. Yeah, we'll look forward to that for sure. Thank you so much. Those are all of our questions. Thank you so much, Lavie, for taking the time to speak with us. It's fantastic, and we look forward to hearing what people think about the Escapement.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.